Morning, David.
Good morning, Christopher. It's good to see you. We're on our own.
We're on our own. We have no Joe. This is 2 days in a row we've met.
Well, it is, and I'm not quite sure where Joe is today. She was at Sarum yesterday, I know that. I know she was driving in a car, because when I said about Red Chat, she said, it'll be difficult because I'll be driving a car. So we excuse her. So, but I'm sure she's doing something very, very noble and important.
Oh,
maybe on a training day.
Bigger and better things.
Well, absolutely. Befitting a person of her stature. That's what I say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, befitting. So that's very good. So dear viewer, sorry about this. You've got to put up with us two again. And an extension of last week's reading from Luke's Gospel. The bit that I thought should have been read with it anyway. So we're going to get a chance to discuss it in a bit. But have you had a good week, Christopher? You were out golfing with it this week, or last week you were golfing for the Diocese?
Yeah.
Where's your trophy? We want to see your trophy.
Oh, my trophy's in such a silver cabinet on high esteem and gets polished every day.
Because didn't you win the best ball hitter trophy or something?
I won a thing called 4-ball better ball for representing Salisbury Diocese in the Church of England Interdiocesan Golf Tournament, sponsored by Ecclesiastical Insurance. See, they paid for my round of golf, so I've got to get their name in.
The 4-ball better ball.
Yeah, well, lots of little competitions.
This belies my understanding, because I mean, you know, to me, golf has been within the traditional view and the understanding of, you know, ruining a nice walk along the seafront or something. Good walk spoilt. That was Spike Milligan, wasn't it? That's right, Spike Milligan. So well done, Spike. So well done. So you are. We're in the midst, or I'm in the midst, and the dear viewer, so are you, the midst of a golfing champion, the 4-ball better ball champion. There we are. There you go. And where did this great momentous occasion take place, Chris?
Well, I'm probably going to annoy you, David.
Yeah.
Because all I'm going to say was Birmingham somewhere, meaning the Midlands.
Birmingham is a very big place.
It wasn't Smethwick.
No, good, because that's not Birmingham. My mother would have killed if you'd have suggested such a thing.
In fact, it was a place called Moor Hall Golf Club.
Yeah, Sutton Coldfield way, I would think.
I will tell you. I will just have a quick look at Google.
Yeah. You have a quick look at Google.
The club is set in the heart of Sutton Coldfield on the northwestern outskirts of Birmingham. There
we are. I told you Sutton Coldfield, because Moor Hill and all those kind of places around Sutton. Of course, Sutton Coldfield has been very prominent on the telly, because they did all the they did a lot of the races and the things for where the man jumps in the water and swims and then cycles and then runs around the park. That was all done in Sutton Park.
Oh, okay.
The triathlon.
So I was in a famous place as well.
Well, Sutton Coldfield is, it's the posh bit of Birmingham, really.
Oh.
Which befits the character of most clergy, I would have thought.
Oh, I'm not going to comment on that.
However, you won. You are a champion. We are amidst champions, and we salute you, sir. We salute you. And hopefully it will have inspired your theological understanding of the reading we're about to hear in a few moments.
It was worrying me, because 10 minutes ago, when I went to read what I've preached on this passage before,
oh dear,
I couldn't find a copy of what I said 3 years ago or 6 years ago.
Because you're on holiday, probably.
Well, it's August, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you'll get my first thoughts, not my deep theological research thoughts.
Thank heavens for that. That's all I can say. But there we are. So let's have a pause. You can hold your trophy up pretendingly, and then we'll get into it. And on to you, Chris.
A reading from Luke chapter 12. It begins at verse 32. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed for action and have your lamps lit. Be like those who are waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet, so that they may open the door for him as soon as he comes and knocks. Blessed are those slaves whom the master finds alert when he comes. Truly, I tell you, he will fasten his belt and have them sit down to eat, and he will come and serve them. If he comes during the middle of the night or near dawn and finds them so, blessed are those slaves. But know this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour.
Well, there we are. That was exciting. That was Luke. What was it, Chris? Luke
Chapter 12, verses 32 to 40.
40, 12, 30,
Here we
40.
have our options. Everybody's got to go out, sell all your possessions and give it all to the poor.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's absolutely the right approach to take, Chris. But of course, what will you do with your trophy?
Shall I sell that and give it to the poor?
Well, you could do.
It's not mine. It's only in my keeping for a year. And
True.
Maybe that's what, because Salisbury Diocese, the team, did also win another trophy.
Oh, heavens.
But I wasn't quite sure what it was for, and we couldn't be awarded it because Norwich Diocese had not returned it from the last time the competition was held.
Sneaky these clergy golf teams, obviously.
So maybe the Diocese of Norwich are ahead of us, and they had taken the trophy and sold it and given it to the poor.
Could have done. We hope that's the right action they would have taken. So, yes, this dear viewer, was, as I said earlier, an immediate follow-on from the reading last week that Chris read, and we tried to discuss and struggled over to a degree. And I never quite understand why they chop it off where they do and don't just continue, because it's very much on the same theme. Does God want us to just give everything away? That's the question maybe where we could start. Or does God want us to use what we've got correctly and for the benefit of as many people as possible?
Well, I think maybe in light of the fact that we talked rather at length last week, and maybe we ought to be a bit briefer this week, I'll go to what I think is straight to the heart of what Jesus is getting to here, and that's verse 34.
Go for it.
Jesus says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So in other words, if we accumulate and we value our treasures, things more than God, we're in trouble. If we value our spiritual lives, if we value serving other people and following Jesus more than anything, if that's our treasure, that's where our heart is. If we value an accumulations of possessions and bigger houses, and that's the really important thing in our lives, and we get really het up if anybody might steal stuff, then that's not where our heart should be.
Well, I think I've shared probably once before on RevChat that this particular reading was the reading at my confirmation service in November 1968. You can only dream of such dates, Chris, of course.
I was 3 then.
Were you 3? You were born. Well done. Well, November 1968, when I was confirmed by the then Bishop of Aston, whose name I can't remember, in St Albans Church in Smethwick. And on that night, there were nearly 120 of us confirmed in one. Yeah, big thing. And St Albans Church is now a multi-faith community centre. And it happens. Last time I drove past it anyway, a few years ago. But that reading was used. And I remember the bishop at the confirmation service leaning over the pulpit, which was one of those slightly raised off the floor so he could look down at us. And he said, I want all of you children to remember exactly what you've just said, that, where your heart is, that's where your treasure should be also, etc. And he alluded very much to what you said, that, the kingdom of God is where we look to and what we look towards. And the kingdom of God, possessions are not held, with his understanding. And the kingdom of God on earth, we shouldn't be holding on to possessions that we don't need, because where possible, we should be looking to do what God requires of us, and that's to share, to look after, and to be considerate to others. And so that reading has always meant quite a bit to me personally. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And oops, just had to go. Nope. The cleaner has obviously arrived, and she's being shut out. She's come to polish the trophy, understandably. But yeah, I mean, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Yesterday, as you know, Chris, because we did meet up, you alluded to that earlier. That Jean-Baptiste Vianney, whose day it actually is today. I've always tried to lead a bit of my life around that, because of the idea of, our spiritual life should be centered on God and where God is. And if we can center ourselves in God and where he is and what he, perhaps demands of us or asks of us, and then everything else kind of pans around it. And for me, the treasure of my heart has to be God and what he means to me and what he does for me, and how generous and kind he is to me, and how can I give that back in some ways to other people.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't got anything to add to that at the moment.
Good. That means we would have done what Joe suggested we should have done last week and be much shorter.
Yeah. But I think last week's was a much more in-depth and difficult to grasp, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. It was.
I mean, that there is a really simple message, but it does go, it does put a little bit of complex into about, the last couple of verses. If the owner of the house knows what hour the thief was coming, you wouldn't let your house be broken into. Well, we all know that's pretty obvious. But what's that saying about us keeping up our guard all the time?
I think if the middle section, which we've tried to avoid so far, because we've talked about chapter 34, now we've gone to verse 39, verse 34, and 35 to 38 is all about, what happens when somebody comes to the wedding banquet. To me, that's always talked about, are we ready for the fact that God could come at any time? Because as Christians, and I know there's been a lot of theological debate in some circles of Christianity about God coming back and when he'll come back and how he'll come back. And if I'm honest, Chris, it's above my theological understanding. I'm a fairly simple person at heart. I think, really, I believe that God will come back one day and will take us to wherever we're to be taken. And I'm quite happy to accept that and wait and find out. But that middle section is all about, are we ready? Are we prepared? And if we're prepared for the fact that God may call us at any point, then you wouldn't want lots of things stored around you because they'd be of little use to you. But that's a very simplistic view I'd accept people saying to me. But it is about, how are we prepared for when God calls us? Maybe into action in our lives today, but maybe for the future. Are we ready? Are we prepared? And that bit that you've just said about the thief coming in. Of course, if you know, I suspect every time we leave our homes, I know my good lady wife does, you know, she checks every window to make sure that they are either securely locked or locked on open, open for ventilation type of thing, and tries to stop the thief getting in. But the person who comes to do whatever they want to do against us could come at any point, because I think that's what the reading is telling us. Be ready. There's always somebody who wants to come when you're not expecting it, and it could be to do harm or bad or whatever. But also be ready for the fact that God could come, because in the same way we're not ready for the thief to come, are we not ready for God to come as well?
It almost sounds to me like this shouldn't be a reading from the Gospel according to Luke. It should be a reading from the Gospel according to John, because John was the spiritual gospel, talking about spiritual things all the time. And really, I think, you know, the analogies of the human things about thieves and treasures and stuff is only really there just to point us to God's spirituality and our spirituality, and the fact that our spirituality in the kingdom of God becomes first and is the thing we should value the most. Back to your simple one, an even simpler statement from what you were just saying is, and you probably hear it as much as I do, well, you can't take it with you when you're gone.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, I almost started off when you read that passage to say, "Are you sure you're not reading from John?" Because the first thing is, "Do not be afraid, little flock." John was very much onto Jesus, the good shepherd, wasn't he? And being one of God's flock. I almost said that. Are you sure? You know, it sounds like you're reading from John, because it's very much there. And what you just said is absolutely right. You know, it's very thoughtful. Mm-hmm. But are we ready? Always be ready. Always be ready. Always be ready. And only have
two occasions where we've agreed with each other in one Rev chat.
I know. It's amazing. And you know, people are very generous in time. I have to be honest and counter all that I've said, and so people are very generous, because again, since last week's Rev chat, I've had another £130 given to me for this fund I've set up from the Bishop's £10 talent, and it's now over £550. That's a stunning amount of generosity from people to say, yes, we trust you to use it, you know, in a way that you know is needed at some point or other. And so the generosity of people is untold in many ways, and I'm very grateful for that. But there we are. Be ready. Be ready. Be prepared. Be prepared.
On that Boy Scout note,
that's right.
Today.
Be prepared. There we are. So there we are. So I'll try and get it right. I did almost yesterday when Chris came to communion. You can follow us on Chris's usual things of the Egerton to Colmer's team, and Twitter and Facebook and all the things that are done over there. You can follow us in Beaminster on all the usual platforms that we have, which is Facebook and YouTube and everything that Harry does magnificently for us. And we look forward to seeing you again next week, dear viewer, when I don't know who it'll be. It could be any two of the three of us, or three of the one of us, or that's a bit of a Trinitarian thing, really, isn't it, Chris?
It is. I won't try and liken which of us is attributable to which one of the other.
Which one is full of wind? We'll decide later. However, I can tell you need to get off to go and polish your 4-ball better ball trophy and keep it up to a good standard of cleanliness. And we'll see you all next week, dear viewer. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.